In this episode, we'll hear how Mary's simple idea to make burp cloths for her daughter led to more time with her children and the launch of several successful businesses. Hi everyone, you're listening to the Bold Little Minds MomCast, a podcast where we talk to incredible moms who share their unique journey to motherhood, practical tips, and some of our favorite low prep activities so you can enjoy that hot cup of coffee. I'm your host, Krissy. I'm a mom of 2 boys. I'm glad you're here with us, so pop in your earbuds and let's have some fun. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Bold Little Minds MomCast. I am so happy to have you here with me. I'm Krissy. I'm a mom of 2 young boys. This week's episode is going to be different than any of the ones that you've heard before. We've had 8 episodes published, and I'm so thrilled with all of the support that I've received so far. But one thing I've noticed consistently is that busy moms don't have time for an hour-long episode. So I made the difficult decision to cut down the episode to more of a 25-30 minute time frame so that way hopefully you can listen to the whole thing. Now, the conversations that I'm having with moms are so rich. Every single conversation that I have with a guest ends with, I can't believe how fast that went. And wow, I had so much more I wanted to say. Maybe we can do a part 2. And I agree with them. Everything has just been amazing. And it's so hard to think, what am I going to cut out and leave behind? So I've decided to come up with 2 versions of the episode. One episode will be released on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever you're listening to podcasts. And that will be the main version of the podcast. The rest of the content that's still going to be incredibly valuable, I'm going to put out on my Substack. And I'll put out on Instagram and Facebook how you can access that. But what you can do is you can join completely for free and listen to the bonus episode, the rest of the footage that didn't make it into the full episode. Now, I'm not necessarily planning on this being permanent. I want to give it a try and see how it goes because that's the best way to experiment and try new things and see what's working for everybody. So I'd love to hear your feedback. Another thing I'd really like to hear from you are what portions of the episode are really valuable that you want to make sure make it into the full episode. Right now, I'm putting in the main parts of the story and the activity idea because at the core of everything, my mission is to help moms to share their stories, but also to share activity ideas that you can use with your little ones so that way you can have some time to yourself. And that's how I'm trying to make my Instagram and my social media presence kind of morph the 2 together. I want to support moms from multiple different angles. So I'm continuing with posting the podcast clips as well as posting activity ideas that you can use outside of that. So I hope that's been working. It's been feeling good for me as I'm tiptoeing my way into this and figuring out exactly what fits. It's been very exciting no matter what. This week in social media, you can expect to see some content about this week's podcast, some of the highlights, but you can also expect to see some of my ideas about how to use learning posters without just putting them on the wall. Because let's be honest, when you put posters just on the wall and they stay there, sure, the kids notice them for the first couple days, maybe the first week, but after that, it becomes background noise. So I truly believe the best way to use a learning poster is to play with it, just like everything else, learning through play. I'm also continuing my series on how to use seasonal items throughout the year. Which ones do you want to pick? We are deep in Halloween season right now, but things are starting to fly off the shelves. The Halloween season is going away as Thanksgiving and Christmas comes in. So I'll be wrapping up with a couple of ideas for Halloween that you can go out and grab those items now so you can hang on to them for year-round play. Last week I did a post on cauldrons, and for cauldrons, when St. Patrick's Day rolls around, you'll probably wish you had one for all the leprechaun play. So it's really great to grab those kinds of things now, put them in a bin, stick them away, and know that you can have them. But let's be honest, for cauldron play, you can use that for potion making, and kids love that all year round. So for me, my cauldrons are never going to go away. I also plan to share about how my activity menus can help you when you're parenting. I've been so happy with how my 3.5-year-old has loved these menus. I have 2, one for each kid, but the 3.5-year-old's the one that uses them more than the 22-month-old. He's not really grabbing them. But I keep them in our dining room in a little tray, and every day he goes and grabs them in the dry erase marker, and he goes straight to work imagining and practicing and doing all of these things, reading the pictures, saying the names of the pictures that are there, or whatever page I have in there. he's taking it and it's blossoming into something that I couldn't even have planned. One of my favorite things that I see is he loves to do the connect the dots, but he just marks off the numbers, just ticks them off 1, 2, 3. And through doing these little ticks, sure, he's not making a smooth line connecting the dots. It still makes the picture. It's a little fuzzy and it looks a little wonky, but he still makes it. So at the end, when he's done counting, he's like, look, Mama, a cat. And he just counted to whatever that number goes up to, 30? I mean, I don't even remember what it was. For him, taking these activities and coming up with how he wants to play with them is so engaging that I have time to drink my coffee again. Or what's also really cool is I have time to play with my 22-month-old and do something different with him. Because that second child often doesn't get that one-on-one time with you. So this has been a really great solution for how can I get that time without neglecting my 3.5-year-old. It's been awesome. On this week's episode, I talked to Mary. Mary is a mom of 2 and also a small business owner. Listening to her story about how she took something so small and watched it blossom into something bigger than she could have ever imagined is so incredible. We talk about her difficult journey to motherhood and also some of her secrets to how to keep her marriage healthy and strong with 2 young kids and how she fills her day with play and connection with her kids. She has some really fun ideas that I can't wait for you to hear. Now remember, not all of this will be in this episode. In the bonus episode that you'll find on Substack, you'll hear more about how she started these businesses and how they've grown into what they are now. So I hope that you listen to this episode all the way through and that you're able to jump into the bonus episode here and there throughout the week. Let me know what you think about this new format. I'm definitely open to ideas and I love hearing what you have to say because as the listener, it's important that I make this work for you. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Mary as much as I did. Enjoy the show. Thank you so much for listening to the Bold Little Minds MomCast. My name is Krissy. I am a stay-at-home mom of 2, and I am here today with Mary. Mary is also a stay-at-home mom of 2. Her kids are ages 5 and 2, and I am so excited to have you here today, Mary. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I love following all your small businesses on social media. You are an entrepreneur and you have a lot going on. You are a busy lady. So taking the time to be here with us is just, I'm grateful for that.
It's like not in my DNA to sit down and do nothing. So this is nothing. Like this is not me doing nothing.
I know, right? And it still feels like we're relaxing because we're like hanging out and chatting.
So, yeah, it's wonderful.
I get it. So please tell me about who you were before becoming a mom, before becoming an entrepreneur. What was your life like?
I think it really all started with I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. So a great idea would be to go to college and figure out what you want to do. It's not a good idea. You get into a lot of debt not knowing where you want to go with your life. So yeah, I went to college for a couple years, and in that time I met my husband and we got engaged pretty quickly. And then as soon as I graduated college, we got married. And I was a wife and I was working as a PT, and those were my 2 roles. And then we just started our journey to have kids, which was it was not an easy journey.
Yeah, I know that's so common and it doesn't necessarily feel that way, especially when you're in it.
Yeah. You never think it's going to be as hard as it is until you actually want it to happen. But it took us about 2 years to have my oldest. And we started actually going through the IVF process. We did all the testing, but before we had to do the actual procedures, by some miracle, we found out that we were pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So it was a wonderful surprise. But a lot of people don't always talk about it either. My husband has infertility and I do. So oftentimes you don't realize that it's like not just the women that have a hard time. So it added to our journey, but we lucked out and had my daughter.
Amazing. Wow. So before all that, you were in physical therapy. Were you doing specializing in adults and kids? What was your journey there?
I love elderly people.
Yeah.
That was my thing. So I was always working with the elderly population. I had a specialty in wound care. So I did a lot of debriding and cleaning of wounds, which a lot of people think it's just nurses that do it, but I was the PT that did it. So I love gross things and I love cute old people.
That's great. And I bet it prepared you in a lot of ways for motherhood.
Oh yeah, I'm not squeamish at all. And the elderly population, especially when, they're at the end of life, it's very similar to younger kids. So
Yeah,
yeah,
the
it's,
brain changes are pretty universal at both those
yeah.
parts in life. And even in our middle age, I know my brain is changing like crazy. And
Oh yeah, I hear you.
it's tough to navigate sometimes, but we'll get through it. So you were
Yeah.
a physical therapist for how many years?
Oh my goodness. I want to say about 5, but I was still working as a PT after I had my daughter.
Okay.
It wasn't until I had my son that I left. So I was a mom, I was working as a PT, but I had also started my Laurel Tree and Me business. So I was kind of juggling the 3 all at once.
Wow. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Wow. So tell me
Yeah.
about your first business then.
Yeah, I think I just saw people starting Etsy
Mhm.
businesses, and I was a mom, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna make my daughter's burp cloths. So
Oh,
I just started sewing them, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can sell these on Etsy. And then the business just transpired to nothing having to do with burp cloths. And yeah, it just grew.
it's so amazing how that happens. You start with this little idea and then it just kind of
Mhm.
spirals out. Where did your inspiration come from?
I think I am such a dreamer,
Mhm.
and I always have this vision and idea for what I want my life to be like, and nobody is going to make that happen except for me. I can wish and I can wish as much as I want, but it's not going to happen unless you actually do something. So I think something that just started out as a hobby, and I'm like, "Ah, I can make a little extra money here and there, turned into something that changed my life."
Oh, that's incredible. Now you have a second child, right? He's so about 3 years
Yes.
apart. Tell me about that journey. Did you, especially with the issues you had trying to conceive the first time, how was that for you?
Yes. So after it actually it's probably about when my daughter was a year, we decided we wanted to have another,
Mhm.
and it was just about almost in the height of, or the pandemic was
Yeah.
about to start. And at the time, if you work in healthcare, every single time you went so much to a doctor's office, you had to quarantine for 2 weeks. You couldn't go to work.
Ooh.
So when you're pregnant, you're going to the doctors all the
Oh,
time. I was never in work. So I was pregnant, and we were pregnant with twins. And unfortunately we lost one of
wow.
them, and then a couple weeks after we lost the other.
Mhm.
And as you can imagine, in and out of the doctors, surgeries,
Yeah.
whatnot, and I was out of work for months. So it kind of gave me the opportunity to put things into perspective in terms of balancing like my business and my career. And then once I was lucky to get pregnant successfully and keep it with my son, I decided, I'm going to stay home.
Good for you. Wow, what a
Yeah.
heartache. I had multiple
Yeah.
losses, but having
Mm.
multiples and losing both, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it was a freak thing. It was truly a freak thing. You're devastated, but then you're so excited because it's like maybe there's a reason there was two. Like
Right.
one of them is still going to be here, and it didn't work out that way. But I mean, I wouldn't have my son if
Right.
we didn't go through all that, and he's the best.
I
So,
know, right? After you have a little baby, it puts things in a different realm. I mean, you can still
oh, for
grieve and be
sure.
sad, and yeah, we still remember our babies. We have donuts the day after Christmas, and like it's just kind of a special
Oh,
thing that we do. And we don't talk. Obviously,
yeah,
the kids are too young right now, so we don't talk about it with them. But we
right,
can look at each other and just kind of remember and have
right,
that little
right.
tradition.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's really
That's
special.
sweet. So you had a little baby at the time too. I mean, I know because if you had what was she must have been right around 1 then still, right? You have
Yep. Yeah.
oh,
Yep.
man, I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't have babies at the time when I had my losses. So to have one to with all that sadness, that must have been hard.
Yeah. It was hard, but I wanna say in some ways it made it easier.
Sure.
It was a We actually had a loss before we had our
Mhm.
first, and it was a lot harder to cope with because at the time, it's like, I just wanna be a mom.
Yeah.
So after having her and then having the losses, it was really hard, but I was a mom. So
Sure.
I had at least gotten that and I knew I would be okay. So
Yeah, and you're so busy, like, with being a mom that it drives your attention. It gives you something else to do.
yeah,
Like, I remember I was always
yeah,
trying to find something to focus on besides that, and when you have a little
yeah,
baby running around, a toddler running around, there's not much else to think
yeah,
about.
yeah. It's a good distraction.
Definitely. So what was it like for you now? You have 2 kids. Going from 1 to
Yes.
2 is hard enough as it is, and now you're shifting your identity, leaving work, and becoming a full-time mom. What was that like?
I think I already had so much of a grace period to kind of take on that
Yep.
role that it was easy. It was smooth sailing. I know that I'm meant to be just like a mom and home with my kids. So, I mean, you throw me in the deep end and I will survive. So it's I mean, it's wonderful. It's the best.
Oh, that's great. And how did your daughter do becoming a big sister?
She is like mom number two. She's so reliable. You know how moms have that, like, you have to use reverse psychology on your kids
Yep.
sometimes to get them to do things? She is the queen of reverse psychology with my son. Like, some people listen to her negotiating and they're like, where does she? And I'm like, she's a natural big sister.
That's so fun, and I feel like 3 around 3 when she was, especially with girls, they have that extra
Yeah.
sass to them, so that must have been
Yeah.
a really
Yeah.
fun time to see her kind of go into that, so it was good timing
hmm
then.
Honestly, and again, as much as like, the heartache we
Right.
went through with the losses, the age difference between my kids, I mean, I know people that have like three under
Yep.
five, three under four, and I'm like, I can't do
Mhm.
that.
Right, so to have this sassy little second mom, that must feel
Oh,
fun,
yeah.
and now with yours
Yep.
turning 2 or becoming yeah,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
almost 3, right?
Three.
How's he dealing with that now? Is he starting to push back?
Oh, yes, he's been pushing back for about a year now because she's, been so in control of him. He now has his voice, but it's great because she's always been my very cautious, careful
Yeah.
child, and my son is so adventurous and wild. He really brings that out in her and makes her like a little bit less anxious to do new things, but also she brings out like the tender loving side in him. They're really the perfect balance for each other.
That sounds like it. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a lot of activities that you do with your kids, but I want to
Mhm.
hear your favorite go to, like the kids are getting a little crazy and you want to drink that coffee. What is the thing that you pull out and every single time it's going to keep them occupied for a little while?
Shaving cream. I don't know if you do that as a kid in school? In school, they used to always pour shaving cream on the desk,
Yes.
and then we would use it to clean our desk. But if you play with it enough, eventually it disappears. So I always have cans of shaving cream. I just pour it out, and it really doesn't make a mess because it disappears eventually. I just spray the countertop, and they go at it. They spread it, they play
Mm.
it, they can draw and write in it, and then eventually, when they play with it enough, it just disappears. So you can put more on or you don't need to, and you just have a clean counter.
That is so smart to do it on your counter.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I use
They
it,
love
yeah, I
it.
bet. I use it in the water table. And
Okay.
they like right now their thing is just spraying the whole can. So, like,
Yeah.
I have a ton of them because they just wanna empty out the whole thing, and they mix it
Yeah.
up, and it kinda swirls and makes this pearlescent thing. So I was sad
Yeah.
that now that water table season is dying out, what are we gonna do with
Yeah.
this? But the countertop, that's like
Do it on your counter.
ah,
Coffee table. I mean, anything that I mean, I don't know if I would. Yeah, I guess I have a wood table. I'd probably do it on that too. I guess as long as it's like sealed or
right,
whatever.
varnished,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's been my go-to. It brings back memories from my childhood in school, using it to clean our desks, and my kids love it. And you can add things to it. I don't know, any type of like sensory toy you could add to it. My son likes to drive his cars in it and make roads.
That's a great
Yeah.
idea. Yes, clean off the
Mm-hmm.
whole kitchen island, just take everything, put it somewhere else, and then you can
Yep.
actually organize that stuff too. So when you put it back on, it's
Yes.
not all the
Yeah.
junk too.
Yep, yep. And it's great because I can do the dishes in the kitchen while the kids are occupied. And then my husband comes home, he has clean
Yeah.
dishes, and everyone's happy.
This is sounding really appealing here.
Yeah.
I love it, and I love the idea of putting little sensory things in, like, you could throw pom-poms up there and then roll the
Yep.
pom-poms in it.
Yep, yep. Well, and that's another thing, pom-poms, that's a good idea because I've always done pom-poms in water,
Mm.
and my kids just like to drop them and hear the sound of the dropping and mixing it and making their potions, but pom-poms and shaving cream, I'll have to try that.
Yes, I am obsessed with my pom-poms. I just have a big bin that I keep in my room really high, and of all
Yeah.
different sizes. I love the 3-inch giant pom-poms, and I have every
Yes.
single size, and I'll pull them out when that's like my go-to, and they cook with them. So right now I have the red, yellow, and green ones out because of apples,
Yeah.
and we make a lot of apple soup and apple pie where they just put them in the pots and
Oh.
pans, stir them up, and do all kinds of things.
Yes. You don't have to get all fancy like with, some people buy all this stuff, or you go to some
Yeah,
kids' houses and they just have toys on toys on toys.
right.
Just pull out a couple pots in your kitchen, give them some spoons, water, pom-poms. I mean, they'll be happier. That's just like how they say kids prefer sometimes the wrapping paper more than the gift. It's just simple goes a long way.
It really does. So we still, we have a ton of toys. And
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
right? And I got these new cabinets that have locks on them. And
Oh,
it started because, my baby's or almost 2-year-old. He's in his phase and has been his whole life where he just dumps everything out. He's just destructo. He's
yes.
destructive. And so I locked the cabinets so that way they can't just go in there to wreak havoc. And it's been
Yeah.
so good. There are so many days that I don't open either cabinet because they're so busy doing other things.
Yes, yeah. I know it's funny. You get all these ideas and you buy all these
Yep.
things. I do this too. I mean, we have these two large cabinets on either side of our TV in the living
Yeah.
room. And I just had every kid toy you could think of, anything my kids would ever want to play with in there. And my husband and I were listening to this podcast about like kids' behavior and stuff because we were struggling with my son a little
Mm.
bit, just getting really aggressive, having a hard time sharing. And one thing she said in there is just put the most simple things in there, take out all the stuff and put it in a rotation.
Mm.
If you have 10 different toys in there, leave 5 of
Mhm.
them and then just rotate them. And we noticed such a big difference in my son's
Yeah.
attitude just because it wasn't even chaos before, but he just had less options.
Mm.
And it's so weird how something so simple like that makes such a difference. But just like us sometimes, if our house is a mess, we're all stressed because it's like chaos.
Right.
But when our house is clean, we feel peace. It's kind of like that with our kids. If they have so many options, it can be so overwhelming.
Right.
But just to have a couple things, like they're not going to feel like they're missing out or like they don't have all the things that they need.
Right.
It makes such a difference.
Right. And one thing I find, so rotations stress me out just because of thinking about it. But the locked cabinet
Yes.
situation is helping me where I can unlock a cabinet and they can play with those
Yes.
things. But remembering that like one toy can be like a whole category. So like
Yeah.
when we play with cars and trucks, we play with all the cars and trucks. And that's like a category for us. That's just how it
Yeah.
works. So like I open up the car, it's the garage. I open up the car and truck bin and like
Yeah.
when they have more of those, they just seem to play with them better because like all the little
Yeah.
cars go on the car carrier and the garage
Yeah.
and like they're experimenting with sizes and how things go together and it's really cool to see. So
Yeah.
remembering like one toy in a rotation doesn't have to mean like literally like the fire truck.
Oh yeah, no, we have like a bin of
Yeah.
dinosaurs. That's one toy in our
Yeah.
rotation. I'm not like that simplistic
Right.
like Montessori.
Yeah.
You got a big bucket of like 20
Sure.
dinosaurs, but
Right. It's more fun. I remember having Barbie castles that were like, my whole
yeah.
house. The more Barbies, the better for when I was a kid. So I think that's true
Yeah,
too.
exactly. I agree.
That's so fun. So tell me about having a boy and a girl because I think my boys are insane and wild and my sister's kids are girls and I feel like they're also, wild because that's kids, but they'll like sit down and
Yes.
do a coloring book whereas my kids
Yeah.
not so much. So tell me what your observations are.
It's funny because before I had kids, I wanted to be a boy mom. I just wanted boys. And I was a little bit sad when I found out
Aw.
I was pregnant with my daughter, not because I didn't want her, but I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, this throws off what I imagined for myself. And after having her, I'm like, I only want girls. This is just wonderful. You have like your little best friend you can do things with, and girls are very different than boys. So then when I found out I was pregnant with my son, I was like, wait, I thought I was going to be a girl mom. I didn't know I was going to have one of each. And then after having him, it's honestly like the best of both
Yeah.
worlds. Just like you said, she will sit down, she will color, she will play dress up. She's just very like she's just a girl. She wants to paint her nails, she wants to do her makeup. And my son, as you know, they're just rough and tough and
Yeah.
wild, and they don't sit down ever.
Right?
I don't know how we haven't ended up in like an urgent care. Like it's just a whole new world. I mean, I remember the first time my daughter got like a bloody lip, and my son gets one every day because he's just like jumping off the we have like the nugget
Yep.
couches, and he's just jumping off the top. It's just he's scary.
It's terrifying. Yeah.
Yes. But they are totally opposite, but there's so much good in both. And they say that boys are wild when they're younger, but they mellow out when they're older. Girls are easier when they're younger, and they're going to give you a run for your money when you're older, which as a girl I can attest to.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. We'll see about the boys, though. I mean, I taught middle school and high school, and I'll tell you, I don't know, but I'm willing. I think they just mellow out in different ways. I think they're always
yeah.
devils and risky, but maybe as a mom,
Yeah.
it seems easier because you're just like been there, done that. They're gonna be fine.
Yeah, see, I don't have much to compare to because in my family growing up, there were three girls and a
Yeah.
boy. The boy, he was the youngest. So he wasn't one of the girls, but he was so just covered, and he just had three sisters. So we never really got to see that like wild side come out in him because we were so, I don't even know the word. We, as girls, we were a lot.
Right.
So he kind of just like sat in the back.
Yeah, that sounds like my husband. He's got a lot of sisters, and it just kind of had to be mellow because of that.
Yes, yeah. He didn't get to really shine, but
So, do you have any final words of wisdom that you want to share with moms who are listening today?
honestly, if you have an idea or a vision that you have for yourself, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to recreate the wheel. Like, you just find something that you love and do it. And who knows, something cool might come out of it. Just like how I created burp cloths because I wanted to sew them for my daughter and give her something that I made. I never had it in my mind that I was going to be an entrepreneur. That was not in the cards for me. It's not my personality. It's just not me. And one thing led to the next thing, and I for sure have been on the right path all along. And here I am, an entrepreneur, and it came from just something sweet I wanted to do for my daughter. So if you have an idea or something that you want to do, just do it, and don't judge your path compared to anybody else's path because they're completely different, and there's everything that's okay with that.
I love the baby step piece of it because I know that's kind of how my journey's going is
Hmm.
I knew I wanted to do something. And I had
Hmm.
this like feeling, this urge where I just knew I wanted to start and create and do all these things, but I didn't know what. So
Hmm.
taking that pressure off of thinking, what is that big idea? Because the big idea
Yeah.
is not going to be the one that comes first. It's going to be the little ideas. So taking the baby steps, like for me, it was starting a public Instagram page and posting things that made sense. And that's evolved and changed. And then, somebody heard my voiceover and was like, you've got a really great voice. Maybe you should do a podcast. And I was thinking about that. And so it just evolves and who knows what's going to be next. So don't
Yes.
wait for the big idea. Just go with the little ones for now.
Oh, for sure. I have people that come to me all the time, and they're like, tell me how to do this. Tell me how to do that. And I'm like, that's not how it works. It's not how it worked for me. It's not how it worked for anyone that you see on social media. You only see some sides
Right.
of things. And yeah, you got to give yourself grace, and You just got to live your life as authentically as you can to yourself, and whatever's meant to happen for you, I mean, it's coming for you.
It'll come for sure. What's next for you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I have no idea. I'm just still trying to work on being the best wife, the best mom, and just keep along the path of my modern Ramona business and see where it takes me. I'm trying to take the pressure off and not come up with a next step vision plan for myself. I'm kind of looking to see just what the universe brings me.
I love that. Yeah. And how do you usually come up with your ideas, like with your rug and your recipe box, all those things? Or
just based off of things that I have in my own home that aren't
Yep.
working for me. Like, we had a playroom rug and it was like slipping all over the place. The idea, the look of it was great, but it just wasn't working for us. And I was like, I can do that and even better. So that's what I did.
So we'll see what the next inconvenience in your life is when we see the next product pop up and how you've
I have some
improved it.
good ideas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see them and follow your journey. And this has been such a joy to talk to you. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Tell everybody where they can find you and follow along with your latest and greatest ideas.
Yeah, so if you follow me on Instagram at The Modern Ramona, that will be my Fulfill by Amazon business. And then I am still running my online clothing boutique. That you can find me at Laurel Tree and Me, or you could go to laureltreeandme.com.
Great. Awesome. I definitely recommend. And your boutique looks so cute. I mean, you were just doing this
Thanks.
sale and looking at it all. It's like, I just want to do a whole closet rehaul after having two babies and nursing and all the things. I'm like, none of this makes sense anymore. I need new clothes.
Yeah. I mean, half the time that's where my ideas come from. Something I want, I'm like, oh, just make that.
Perfect. I love it. Well, thank you so much. And if you are interested in sharing your story, I would love to share your story with the world on the podcast. Send me an email at boldlittleminds@gmail.com, or you can send me a DM on my social media. I'm Bold Little Minds on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, all the things. You can find this podcast on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe and share with your friends. Leave a quick little rating and review that helps us to reach other moms. And I am so glad that you took the time to listen to us today. I look forward to seeing you next time. To hear more from Mary about how she went from being a full-time physical therapist to a full-time mom, and how she really developed her business and started her brand new Amazon fulfillment business, listen to the Part B episode on the Substack. We also talk about some of her really great ideas for play, including how she washes her hair outside in the rain with her kids. And we hear her tips on how to keep her marriage healthy and strong. You'll find the link to the Substack in the show notes, and you'll also hear them on my Instagram and Facebook page. I hope that you'll join us over there.